gents, welcome back to the FPL One Percenters Podcast, Game Week 11, and discussing Game Week 10 as well. Joined as always by Kazim and Hass, FPL legends in their own rights. Guys, welcome back. For those of you who are joining us, if you enjoy these videos, like, subscribe, and comment. If we've helped you make sort of FPL decisions in the past, or we've cost you FPL points, please let us know. We're missing Hammer again this week, who is on a longer sabbatical, but we'll be back with us soon. And guys, welcome back. Game week reviews. How did it go for you guys? And we'll start with Hass.
All right, boys. Looking forward to another good chat. Yeah, game week review. So this was one where I made a big swap. I swapped out Kane for Vardy based on fixtures and a little bit of form. And I'd captained Vardy. I was waiting till that Monday. I was looking for my hat trick. I had to wait till the 87th minute to get an assist. But you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, take it to the bank. Honestly, I was saying I captained Vardy as well. But it was not the one. I have actually doubled up on Kane and Vardy. So I've got both of them in my front line. Got rid of the curse that is Mitrovic. But yeah, I jumped on that. Kazim?
Yeah, pretty average week as usual. It seems to be the trend. I did this sort of...
No, fair enough. You got 2 green arrows. You said very confidently over the last 2 weeks. So if anyone was due an average week, it's you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this week sort of the decision was... last week the decision was the Vardy Kane move, and I guess it's somewhat paid off, but not enough. I think Vardy's party was in a quarantine party more than an actual party, so
yeah,
didn't get that double digit as I was hoping.
Yeah, I know. We'll come to Vardy and his sort of numbers against Kane later on in the pod, but it was just one of those very lazy performances from Leicester where they kind of turned up expecting to win, it seemed almost. But Bruno once again came through nicely. As I know you went down the De Bruyne route, but any thoughts on Bruno?
Yeah, you know what? It's this Bruno. He's Mr. Consistent, right? Like we've seen that. I don't think he's blanked for 2 games in a row, which is an amazing stat for the number of games he's played. He's the sort of guy you want to bring in your team. But then, you look at De Bruyne, you look at Vardy, you look at Salah, and then, it's difficult to fit everybody in. So I unfortunately don't have Mr. Bruno in my team, but I've got to find a way to try and get him in.
Yeah. Kazim, I'm riding the Bruno wave, of course. You and I. I think you're on mute. Is he? He's on mute, isn't he?
I can't hear him. This is 2020 for you.
Yeah, trust me. But okay, there you go.
Okay,
share your Bruno wisdoms.
I went full screen mode, so I didn't see the mute button. But pretty much what I was saying is he's doing more than just penalties than the rep he was given before, the bad rep at least. So I think now he's actually contributing a lot more to play. Not that he wasn't before, but he's actually scoring from more open play than from the penalty spot. And if Cavani sort of maybe breaks into that team, he could maybe potentially form a partnership there as well. But yeah, so I think he's a good pick.
Yeah, he's smashing it, to be honest. And his goal involvement, just to update those on the stat from last week, was 35 games, 34 goal involvements. It's now 36 games, 36 goal involvements. But he somehow just manages to be like the center of everything, which is great from an FPL standpoint. Another person who seems to be at the center of everything is someone who spoke about last week, Jota. Any of us holding?
So I don't have Jota right now. He's the guy that I'm looking to bring in. I've got I can easily get him in because he's so cheap right now. But my thinking has he nailed down a first team slot, or is he going to be rotated? Because if he's in, then that means Firmino's going to get rested. So I think he's going to play. I think he's going to get a lot of time, but he's not going to. He's probably going to play 3 weeks out of 4. So if you're okay with those sort of odds, then I think he's a good guy to bring in for that price.
Yeah, Foden sort of numbers, I guess.
Yeah, sort of what we mentioned last week, but I think we're getting a bit more certainty around his starting place. Like he's going to play, like Hass said, at least 75 to 8% of the games, versus obviously a Foden where you're lucky if at this point now he may play every game, but you're going to get that 30-minute sub appearance. and maybe a couple starts here and there. So yeah, he's definitely a good pick if you're looking at that price range. But I guess the real question is do you want Salah and Jota, or are you looking at just keeping Jota? Because to double up on it is the decision you need to make, really. And I think that really comes down to the fixtures that they have. If you really want to, double up on both of them.
Yeah, it's true. So it is a good shot, because with Jota, one thing that I heard on one of the other pods was that he's not he will be their first attacking sub even if he doesn't start, because they don't have many options in the front line, I guess. So if Salah, Mane, or Firmino's coming off, then he will be the first guy to come on, as opposed to Foden, who has a lot of other people who could come on in place of Foden as well. And he's more like a reserved striker rather than an attacking mid, so he has more goal threat than Foden potentially.
Yeah, and the thing about Foden is, I had him in my team for 4 weeks. I brought him in, he was benched. So I think, okay, I got to hold him because he's playing the next game. He's benched. Then I think I've got to hold him because he's definitely playing the next game, and he's benched the third and fourth game. So I finally gave up, and I think this week he came on and he got the assist in the 5-0 win, but he came on as a sub. But, I had to get rid of him. I can't deal with that.
I think he sold us dreams, Pep, in game week 1. I think he had a goal and an assist, a full haul in game week 1 as well, which pitched a lot of us, and a lot of us who played a very early wild card. We got Foden in, thinking it's going to be a world beater, but nonetheless, we live and we learn. But speaking of Phil Foden, sort of brings us on to our sort of City discussion topic, and generally 5-0 for City. They had scored the least amount of goals they had in the start of the season. I think we mentioned last week. They fixed it all. Last 4 times that Burnley have been to the Etihad, they've conceded 5 goals. It was 5-0 every time. I think they scored a 6th, and it was just like, no, it was fate for it to be 5 goals. As a Kevin De Bruyne owner, Hass, you feeling quite good about it?
Yeah, I think, looking at these fixtures, I think City, they're looking good for attacking returns. And I think we mentioned it on the pod last week. I wouldn't even mind tripling up at this stage on City, whether you bring in 2 defenders or bring in, 2 mids. You could easily bring in Mahrez. You could, and then there's a question we just talked about Foden, and also Torres as well. But he's not going to start every game, but he's at a good price where you could probably, if he's benched 1 game out of 3 or 1 game out of 4, you could probably get away with it. But Diaz and Cancelo at the back. I know Cancelo was dropped this week, or not dropped, rested. But Diaz, Cancelo, again, they're going to start 4 games out of 5. So, it's looking good. I mean, not bad value, 5.6 million.
Yeah, true. Quite decent value. It's cheaper than City, like premium defenders have been in the past, right, Kazim?
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you wouldn't expect in the City lineup you would have these mid-price defenders. But really, I think only Laporte and maybe, I guess, Walker, they're sort of premium assets. But they're actually at somewhat affordable prices too. But once again, I think the biggest issue that I'm facing is I don't want to bring in one of these guys and get burnt by him being on the bench. I have enough problems in my team and I can't deal with another one. So for me, although I'm considering Kyle Walker sort of City coverage, because I also have Foden and he's once again inconsistent in his starting place, it's really just KDB for me. So Mahrez is another one where I think he may have a lot of high transferred in, but you run the risk of him starting. So you do have to really have a bench coverage for that. But yeah, I mean, definitely if they start, anyone's good has a crystal ball and can guess if he's going to start or not. But I know something where Pep had mentioned that he doesn't rest players, he picks the players for the game. So if you can sort of figure out what's the best way to play Fulham and analyze it that way, I think you can have a better shout at what he's going to actually.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Sterling rested was quite painful. I mean, people are talking about Sterling, De Bruyne double up, but to have 11.5 million that you've spent on the bench, that's sort of. I think there's a ceiling up to which price you can accept a player as being benched, below a 7 kind of. It's a premium asset, but you've got whole 12 million on the bench. It's quite hurtful. And Mars is in that weird spot at 8.5-ish, 8.5, where you're this much money, I need you to start every week.
Yeah. So I was looking at Mahrez this season. He's actually started 7 of their 9 games, so he's getting a lot of starts.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I feel maybe he gets more of a rep for roulette than he actually
I think it was last season he didn't start that many games, and this season I think he must have shown Pep something in training because Pep's starting with him.
And he had COVID too, right? So he probably only missed those games because of COVID. So
Perhaps,
yes, of
Good
course,
point.
probably a good bet, I guess.
Yeah, because they were looking dangerous, man. They were creating chance after chance as well. I mean, I know it was Burnley, and like maybe if you go to a certain stadium and you get that same result time after time, you go in there sort of expecting it. Nick Pope was out as well. The keeper threw one into his own net as well. So I mean, it just wasn't a good day for them. And Fulham looked. I mean, they looked all right against against Leicester. We'll come to that, but again, it looks like a hole if they're gonna get anything. You'd expect them to get big holes in the next couple of game weeks. So if you're going to jump on it, I would say that look at it for the long run, right?
Yeah, I agreed. And you know what, Leicester against Fulham, that was different. I think Leicester, they're the counter-attacking team. That's where Vardy gets his goals. Fulham, they sat deep. They got that early goal, so then they didn't need to come out, and that frustrated Leicester.
And it frustrated me. So painful to watch, man. But yeah, moving from City, we've just heard just before we jumped onto the pod that Newcastle Villa on the Friday night has been postponed because of the COVID cases within the Newcastle team. So I think about 5 had tested positive after this weekend, and it's significantly gone up from there. So we don't know exactly what the story is, but it comes at a time when Villa had a relatively good run sort of coming up, and we were sort of suggesting that you should look at the double up on Villa. Not a bad shout with defender or Martinez and Grealish in your team. Watkins was an option. Callum Wilson was an option. So a lot of ramifications in general. Guys, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to, you know what, here, if you've tripled up on Villa and you have, maybe Wilson as well, you got to look at your team. If you have 11 players that you're pretty confident are going to start this weekend, maybe you could, hold off making that transfer because it's only going to be one game. But if you're only going to be able to field 8 players or 9 players, it may be worth taking a hit, because if you think, you're going to get 0 points for this guy, so a hit, it's -4. If the guy just plays, that's only 2 points you've lost there. So, you got a chance, but it's one of those, it's unlucky.
Yeah, true. That's the kind of justification I use late on a Friday night. Like, if he's not going to play anyways, so really it's not even a -4, it's a -2. I love that. But to be fair, I was going to do that and get rid of Saiss for Cancelo. That was my justification. I was like, it just has to play to get the 2. And I would have been so wounded right now. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. With Grealish as well, you got to think about team value, right? Not team value, but player value. Like if you brought Grealish in from the start, he's one that I definitely say that, if it's just a 1 week, you definitely hold.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was a sort of a week a lot of people were aiming to bring in Grealish just due to the fixtures, if you have that price bracket available. But yeah, like this, I think he's a sort of pick where if you have him, like obviously you keep him. If you don't, you could potentially look at other assets in that price bracket to help you sort of fund that position.
True, like you said, Jota's an option. Harvey Barnes, let's have a good run. So Harvey Barnes, I mean, I know he didn't start this weekend, but he looks essential, and they looked a lot better with him in the team. And their fixtures look good after this game week. They play Wolves, they go away to Wolves, but then they've got Burnley, they've got West Brom. So I wouldn't sort of rush anything. If you do have sort of other defenders that will play instead of a Konsa, then you know what, like field your 3 defenders who are going to play. Wouldn't sort of rush into anything. You don't ideally want to waste a transfer on a goalkeeper either, right? Like that's one position you really don't want to waste transfer on. But if you don't have a keeper playing again and you're really happy with your team, then maybe like a 1 or 2 week punt for Sam Johnston, McCarthy, Meslier, those would be the potential like ones you could look at, right?
Yeah, and slight disclaimer, the game could technically still happen in the following week, I believe. So
yeah,
within the same game, obviously don't rush until the Friday, I would say.
Yeah, the deadline's been moved as well, right? As a result of this.
Yeah. The deadline's moved to Saturday.
Okay, nice. Saturday.
Yeah, and they haven't said when that game's going to be moved to, but Kazim's right. I think if the players have their second test, I don't know when it is, later this week, then in theory, they could move the game to midweek of next week. So it'd still be within the same game week. So that's a bit of a risk that you're taking.
True. Yeah, true. And although I don't know, there might be different rules because once you test negative, I guess surely you should be okay to play. It's above my pay grade probably. But there's then us 14-day self-isolation. I don't know anymore. To be fair, Mo Salah was back on the pitch within a week. His brother's wedding, so there's no rules. 2020.
And one thing I know, most seasons we're always talking about chasing player value and making those transfers when you see players going up and down in value. I think this season with COVID and with all the injuries and with the compressed season, I've been waiting till the Friday or even Friday night to make these transfers. And you do lose a bit because like Bruno, he went up yesterday by 0.1, and I think I've got Rodriguez, he went down by 0.1. So that's a 0.2 loss right there. And I could have made some different moves, but I didn't want to risk taking the hits.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same with me. I was chasing team value so much at the beginning, but I make the moves early in the week. Like I look and I see how much room I have as well. Like I was like, ideally I'd want to do this, and if you got like 0.5 left in the bank, then it's not the worst thing. Because there's a lot more like value at lower price points, so you can build a great team even if you do have only 100 million, 100.5. I think chasing team value is very difficult at this season particularly. But yeah, Callum Wilson, any sort of anyone you'd look at? I mean, their run after that is good. They play West Brom, they play Leeds, and then Fulham. So again, if you can feel the team, he's one to hold, definitely, right?
Yeah, the thing with Callum Wilson is I watched that game, the Newcastle game. I don't know why I watched it. It was one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. But Wilson pops up with a goal and assist in the 88th and 89th minute, and 3-point bonus, 12 points. Happy days for Wilson owners, and that's the sort of thing. He's gonna be their focal point for attack. Yeah. So if you're gonna just miss one game, if you have somebody who can come in, you can hold in. There's no issues there.
Yeah, true. Okay, great chat. With that, I mean, we're talking about budget strikers. Let's talk about the two sort of premium strikers we have. Aguero again injured, knee injury, so he's not looking like an option in this premium price bracket at the moment. We've got a stat on sort of Jamie Vardy versus Harry Kane. A lot of people did one for the other. I am one of the few who was just backing them both to have absolute monster holds this week. So I had both. But what are your initial sort of thoughts, Kazim, on the Kane versus Vardy thing? I know Leicester have had a lot more penalties, but
yeah. So I guess what I was sort of mentioning to you earlier, like it's hard to have both, but I guess you sort of went that route. But for the most part, like you're really deciding between one of the two. And I think long term, yes, Harry Kane will probably outscore and more points than Jamie Vardy. But I guess the rationale was really targeting these Jamie Vardy fixtures, where he can sort of, get the big holds against these smaller teams. And actually Sheffield I think that's his former club, or he's from Sheffield originally as well. So he may, show up a bit, show up for that game as well. But yeah, so I think right now I think Jamie Vardy is the right pick to do, just given the fixtures, and I know he only got an assist, but he's generally the type of guy where he has these streaky forms. So he has one bad game, like the next one he definitely bangs.
Yeah, extra Red Bull for the next one. It's just a question of whether who's going to outscore who. So if it's a very short-term move and you're looking to go back to Kane at some point, and Sheffield and Brighton are probably more open teams than sort of Arsenal and Palace. Although Arsenal after last night, you don't really know anymore. But Hass, what are your thoughts generally, Kane v Vardy?
Yeah, I agree. Jamie Vardy, it was again shocking that he didn't get a goal the other day, but that's what I was targeting. I was looking at the next 4 fixtures. I looked at Kane's fixtures. I looked at Vardy's fixtures. I didn't have anything immediately that I needed to fix in the rest of my team. So I thought, with a free transfer, let's make the swap. And that was only one game. So over the next 4 games, if Vardy does score more, then I'll feel vindicated.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's the sort of hope that the teams he's playing is just generally don't keep clean sheets. So he should be in and amongst the goals. Yeah. Leicester have got 8 penalties this season, by the way. I think Liverpool and United have got 4, and then someone else has got 5, but they've got plenty of penalties. He scored about 5 of those. I think he wasn't on the pitch for the other few. But they've got a lot of penalties. And his non-penalty XG isn't the greatest, but I'm not fussed how he scores them, to be honest, at this point.
They all count, as they say.
Yeah, genuinely. But yeah, Harry Kane for the long term could be hold. Although I can see a potential future FPL team of mine, sort of, where DCL is the most expensive striker I have, because there's just so much value in the middle, and I'm gonna listen to Yusuf going forward and sort of captain, like sort of build up midfield, because you could realistically have a De Bruyne, Salah, Fernandes, Grealish midfield if you were to get rid of if you're not to have a premium striker.
Yeah. So go ahead, Kazim. Go on.
No, I was going to say, sort of like when Vardy's fixtures sort of turn to the less favorable fixtures, is I think it's around the time also where you're going to get your second wild card. So that could be a time. I think game week 16 or 17 is, I believe, around the time where the January window hits, where your second wild card sort of comes into play. Yeah. So that would be sort of the time I would aim to bring in Kane. Because Fulham, Leeds, Aston Villa.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
a great shout. That's a great shout. Hass?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And I always like to look at my squad and think, okay, if I could wildcard, what would I do? And I think right now, if I was to wildcard, I'd probably put in 5 good midfielders and have 2 up top with a cheap sub.
Yeah. Every week I build a wildcard team. Just ruining the fact that I dropped it so early. But sort of this Kane Vardy sort of. I mean, somehow I don't feel as confident, and I know I captained him last week, but I was just worried that he was going to have a monster haul. But probably midfielders, I'm not going to shy away from Bruno. Generally going forward, and it brings us nicely to sort of captaincy shots for this week. Liverpool play Wolves. United are away at West Ham. Bruno's form is a lot better away as well. I'm probably going to go Bruno, or if I bring in a City asset, they play Fulham. So that could be a shout, although they're newly inspired Fulham. Guys, any thoughts on captains? Kazim, I know you said Bruno, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much. I mean, I've tried to experiment a lot this year with my captainships, and they don't generally work.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with Bruno on this one. It seems like a decent fixture. West Ham didn't play the best against Aston Villa either. Yeah. And I think they're overperforming their actual performance right now. Like, they had a pretty tough run where they played, like, I think it was all red fixtures.
At the beginning of the season, they had a crazy run.
So yeah, I'm just feel like he's the safest option right now. Just when Liverpool play Wolves, Wolves played pretty decent against Arsenal, and then also against who they play on the weekend. They played I forget who they played.
What was that? Liverpool, Brighton.
No, who did Wolves play?
Wolves played Arsenal.
Oh, they played Arsenal. Okay, so I thought
So
I mean, they're in somewhat decent form now. So I think there may be a tough fixture for Liverpool. So that's sort of my.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's standout captaincy options. If you're holding Bruno, then it's easy. Give him the armband. Don't think about it too much, kind of thing, right? Yeah. Same with Hass and De Bruyne, maybe.
Yeah, I think looking at it, Man United, Bruno, or Man City is fine. But even if you look at Liverpool, I know Wolves is a tough fixture, but after their draw that they got on the weekend, they could be in for a few goals. And the other thing is with the Chelsea at home against Leeds, I can see loads of goals there, but the problem is with Chelsea, you never know who you can captain. Who's going to get those points. Yeah. But it could be a good differential.
We've said this about Leeds over the last couple of weeks, that expect goals, and they played Everton last week, and there should have been lots of goals in that game, but there weren't. Right?
Yeah.
There's chance after like a great 0-0, and eventually Leeds won 1-0. The same thing happened with City versus Leeds as well, where it was like a really open game, lots of chances, expected lots of goals, but it was 1-1 in the end. And so, like, the XG on those games must be insane. But somehow they just managed by force or by fire to just keep their goals down, basically. I'm shocked how they managed it. But yeah, Bamford should have had a couple, actually.
And that clean sheet for Leeds was Christmas come early.
Who did you have? Dallas?
No, I've got Ayling, and he came off the bench.
Oh, brilliant.
Win-win.
Happy days. Basically, I think that brings us to the end for today. Guys, final thoughts. Again, Friday, deadline's on Saturday now, but don't make your transfers till you've watched presses on Friday. Just generally so much can change, and you just don't know who's going to be out, who's going to be injured, like the guy said. Kazim, anything to add?
Yeah, nothing really. Just really watch the press conferences on Friday to get a better idea of who's starting, who's not. And just go with your gut and don't really panic. Still a lot of, I think we're at the quarter point of the season now, so still a lot of, 1/3, I guess, a bit over a third of the season gone. So a lot of games still left, so don't panic and go with that.
Brilliant. Hass is doing your math in his head about the quarter and the third, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry. 10 games out of 38 done. There you go.
Brilliant.
So, I was just going to say, don't chase team value. That's my advice. Just wait till the last minute to make your transfers. Even if you think you can't afford a guy if he goes up or down in value, just wait and pick somebody else up. There are a lot of options this year.
Yeah, brilliant. Yes, good luck this game week. Hopefully we drive a lot further up above the average in this week. But as long as we're staying above the average, we're doing well. All right. Take it easy.
All right.